What's up, everybody? It's Vince from Crushing Strength, Fitness, and MMA. And yeah, we are back for the MMA section of the channel. And a lot's happened in the past few months, starting all the way back from the end of June. Alex Pereira defended his title yet again against Yuri Prochazka. Looked even more vicious and more dominant than it did the first time. The next logical fight for him was Magomed Ankalaev. I'm not really sure what happened there. Now it looks like Ankalaev is fighting Rakic instead. I don't get the point of that fight. Something might be amiss somewhere at the top there. I suspect that maybe there's talks of Pereira fighting Aspinall next, and that's why Ankalaev is fighting Rakic. And, we'll see what's next for Pereira after that, because Pereira, up until this point, from what I've seen in the MMA media and everything, was fine with fighting Ankalaev. That wasn't even a problem for him. He had actually stated that he wanted to stay in his division and fight a little bit longer, defend his belt a few more times. So we'll see what happens if that fight ever happens. Hopefully it does. I think it'll be a great matchup. No predictions so far on that yet, but we'll see. Now on that same card, Ian Gary beat Michael Page. I actually had Michael Page winning that fight 2-1. I felt like he did the more damaging shots and overall had more moments in the fight than Gary did. Really, Gary's shining moment was the first round when he had that rear naked choke. Couldn't really amount his offense much more than that as the later the fight went. It's interesting. We'll see. Maybe it's because, he is the new guy in the UFC in the welterweight division. Maybe that played a part of it. I try not to assume that, but it seems like there's a good chance. But honestly, watching Page get in there and do his taunts, especially when he did the little basketball dribble taunt into I think he landed like a straight left or something. Just amazing stuff. I think Page did what he always does, which is anger his opponents and frustrate them in there, and he did it as good as he ever has. So good on Michael Page. We'll see what's next for both of those guys. And in the welterweight weight class, the belt has changed hands yet again, this time to Belal Muhammad. It was a great performance. Watched that fight, and he did everything that he was supposed to do. He got close to Leon. He got his takedowns. He had great top control, even though he got reversed a few times, though I think that was more due to just how good Edwards is on the ground. But Belal did everything that he was supposed to do, and you got to give him credit for it. He silenced all the doubters, and he looked pretty great in there. As for Edwards, you would like to see a little bit more, what's the word? You would like to see more anticipation or maybe urgency from a champion when they're losing the title. And we didn't really see that until the last 20 seconds of the fifth round. So a bit of a disappointing performance from Edwards. He'll have to go back to the drawing board, and it just seems like it's more of a mental thing for him. That fight reminded me a lot of the rematch of the Usman fight when he first fought for the title and won. Just a very odd performance from him. He did everything wrong. He backed up against the fence. He didn't get his jab going. Didn't really use his kicks. Didn't move forward. It was just very strange that he could be the likes of Colby Covington and Usman, who are arguably better at the style that Muhammad represents, yet he couldn't get through Belal Muhammad. As for what's next for Muhammad there, it looks like Shavkat's the next fight. Probably an unpopular opinion here. I actually think that he beats Shavkat. Looking back to Shavkat's fight against Jeff Neal, I think he has a lot of holes on the feet, and I think Belal's at least proved that he's good enough on the feet to beat the likes of Shavkat, or at least hold his own against anybody in that division. I don't really think Shavkat is the guy to really contend for the title. Could be wrong, probably am, but I do think that Jack Della Maddalena is probably the most interesting contender right now. But we'll see, time will tell. And in the heavyweight division, Tom Aspinall does it yet again. Knocked out Curtis Blades in just a minute. Um, with guys like Aspinall and Pereira around now, I would argue there's a certain level of kind of Anderson Silva-esque potential on both of those guys. When you can, when a guy can do everything right, like Blades was doing, controlling range, landing a few good shots, defending himself well, and you could graze a shot on his forehead and just send him knocked out essentially. It's very hard to see a route to victory for an opponent like that. Um, as for what's next for him, we will see if John Jones comes back. I think it's very interesting how the John Jones situation has turned out. It looked like John Jones was looking for not an easy fight, but potentially easier fight in Miocic, looking to fight an older Miocic. I guess some would argue maybe not quite in his prime at this point, and fight him and win for that reason. Yet it's almost like kind of come back the other way. There's been no talks of Stipe being injured. It looks like he's just waiting for that title fight. And then for Jones, we're seeing all these injuries from the torn pec to the rib injury that I heard that he got about 2 weeks ago, I think, in sparring. It just looks like he's kind of breaking down. I still think him against Aspinall, John Jones has been the best for a long time for a reason. But there's no guarantees on that fight happening, and it's rare that we see an interim title be defended before a fight with a champion with no sight on when that champion might fight the interim champion. Just very odd situation. We'll see what happens, though. And then in the lightweight division, Tony Ferguson. I think this is 8 losses in a row now. Pretty hard to watch, You see these guys at the top for so long, and then they're just trying to hold on to get one more win, or they still think that they're in it and that they have a shot at the title. It just looks like those days have passed, unfortunately, though. And against Chiesa, he actually looks slower than Chiesa does on the feet, which once upon a time, if you had said that to me, I would have said you were crazy. And even on the ground, too, just didn't do anything right defensively. He's just looked like he's a step behind for every recent fight that he's had. Very unfortunate, and it doesn't look like, based off of the post-fight interview, that he really wants to hang it up. It looks like he said he'll keep one glove to think about coming back, and then one glove just in case he doesn't come back. Just not what anyone really wanted to hear after an 8th loss in a row. But wish all the best for Tony. It's been amazing watching him be the uncrowned champ, honestly, for as long as he did. And we'll see what happens next for him. Hopefully he thinks about it for a while and decides to retire.